Have you ever felt it, my friend? That overwhelming sensation, like life is just too much? Like the waves of problems are crashing down on you, one after another, relentless, giving you no room to breathe, no quiet harbor to catch your breath? Has your heart ever ached with that sting of unfairness? That feeling of being utterly powerless against circumstances, or maybe even against the unkindness of others? Oh, how deeply human that feeling is. That desperate wish to just close your eyes and make it all disappear. The struggles, the conflicts, those situations that press in on you, that wound you, that seem to drain every last drop of your energy. We dream of a smooth path, don't we? Of clear skies, of a life where pain and disappointment just don't exist. And that's so understandable, so incredibly natural. But what if I were to share something with you right now, something that might just flip your entire perspective on its head? What if, nestled in the very core of these challenges, at the epicenter of the storm that feels like it's about to swallow you whole, there lies an extraordinary gift, a priceless treasure, one that has the power to utterly transform your existence? What if that instinctive, perfectly understandable urge to run, to hide, to push away everything neprietno? What if that is the very thing robbing you of the chance to discover your true strength, your unshakable spirit, and that profound, unshakable joy you're so desperately searching for? It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? After all, our entire experience, our deepest instincts, scream, run from pain, avoid difficulty, seek comfort. And yet there is an ancient, almost forgotten wisdom, a thread of truth woven through the teachings of the world's greatest sages and spiritual seekers throughout history. It's a wisdom that calls us not to turn away from our challenges, but to walk towards them with an open heart. It whispers and sometimes it roars. Embrace your struggle. Look it squarely in the eye. Welcome it as your teacher, your guide. Because it's right there, in that crucible of maximum tension, in that seeming chaos, that you can find not just relief, but genuine, soul-deep transformation. You can unearth within yourself depths of strength and wisdom you never even knew you possessed. Let's explore why this counterintuitive approach isn't just effective, but is in fact the truest path to profound personal and spiritual growth. Imagine for a moment you've reached out to the universe, to a higher power, to God, whatever name resonates most deeply with you, with a sincere plea, one that comes from the very depths of your soul. Perhaps you asked for patience because you felt yourself constantly on edge. Or maybe you prayed for courage because fear was holding you back. Or perhaps you yearned for humility, tired of the endless battles waged by your ego. And then, in answer to your most heartfelt prayer, what happens? Does a neatly packaged gift descend from the heavens? Here's your dose of patience. Here's your supply of courage. Oh, if only it were that simple. But the universe, my friend, is a wise and loving teacher. It knows that true qualities of the soul aren't just given. They are cultivated. They are grown through experience, through overcoming, through dedicated practice. And so, when you ask for patience, life often sends you situations where that patience is tested to its absolute limits. It might be a slow-moving colleague, an endless line at the grocery store, a child throwing a tantrum, or even just a frustrating tech glitch that pushes all your buttons. When you pray for humility, people or circumstances might appear in your path that seem almost designed to prick your pride, to highlight your imperfections, perhaps even to make you feel small. You ask for strength, and suddenly you're faced with a challenge that feels insurmountable, a problem that demands you dig deep and mobilize every inner resource you have. And what do you typically do in those moments? If following that old instinct, you begin to grumble, to get angry, to run away, to shut down, you are, in essence, rejecting the very answer to your prayer. You're pushing away the helping hand extended to you by the universe. You're saying, no thanks, I didn't want this kind of lesson. I wanted the finished product, not this difficult training ground. But don't you see? That training ground is the path to the finished product. Every one of these unpleasant incidents is a precious opportunity, a unique chance to polish the facets of your soul, to strengthen your spirit, to step closer to that best version of yourself you aspire to be. Therefore, the first and most crucial step on this journey of profound transformation is to shift your perspective, to begin to consciously, and yes, even gratefully, welcome these difficult situations. That's right, with gratitude. And the more challenging, the more disagreeable the situation feels to your heart, the less instinctive sympathy it evokes, the more valuable it can be for your growth. Why? Because overcoming significant obstacles demands far greater courage, more intensive inner work, and a deeper concentration of your spiritual energies. And every such victory over yourself, over your weaknesses, over your reactivity, is a giant leap forward on the path to true virtue, to that inner freedom that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's like being an athlete. Does someone training for the Olympics shy away from heavy weights, grueling workouts, and strict discipline? Quite the opposite. They seek them out. They know that only by pushing against resistance, by stepping far beyond their comfort zone, can they build muscle, develop endurance, and achieve mastery. Your soul, my friend, is just like that athlete, and life's difficulties are its training equipment. By refusing them, you condemn your soul to weakness and stagnation. By embracing them with a willingness to learn, you open up a path to limitless development. But I need to add an important clarification here. In highlighting the value of particularly tough challenges, I'm by no means suggesting you should disdain the smaller ones. You know, a mighty river is formed from countless small streams. Similarly, great spiritual strength, true virtue, is built from a multitude of seemingly insignificant efforts. Don't wait for a hurricane to hit before you start practicing, say, patience. A sideways glance from a neighbor, a less than polite response from a cashier, a delayed bus, spilled coffee. These are all your daily, even hourly opportunities for small but incredibly important victories over your reactive self. Why is this so vital? Because these minor incidents occur far more frequently. And if you can learn to maintain your calm, your composure, your goodwill in these small, everyday situations, you'll constantly keep your spiritual muscle toned. It's like daily exercise. It doesn't require heroic effort, but it builds a solid foundation. Then, when a truly serious trial comes along, your soul will already be trained, ready to meet it head-on. But if you neglect these little things, allowing yourself to get irritated over trifles, to take offense at every careless word, your inner strength gradually weakens. It becomes flabby. And then, when faced with something genuinely significant, you might find yourself unprepared, broken, or overwhelmed. So remember, every moment of your life is a potential training session. Don't miss these chances. The second fundamental principle that will help you not just survive difficulties, but actually thrive because of them, is a deep, unshakable conviction and faith that everything, absolutely everything that happens to you, happens according to some higher design for your ultimate benefit so that you can derive some spiritual fruit from it. Yes, I know this can be incredibly hard to accept, especially when we're talking about things that seem overtly evil, unjust, or destructive. For instance, the harmful actions of others, betrayal, or violence. Of course, we can't say these happen by the direct, active will of God or the universe, if that implies an active desire for evil. But even such dark events are not without a permissive will, meaning they are allowed into our lives. Why? Perhaps for our awakening, for our humility, so that we might more keenly feel the value of goodness, light, and compassion. Perhaps so we can learn to forgive, or so our souls can be tempered in the fire of suffering, acquiring a strength we never knew before. And as for those sorrows and sufferings that arise either from our own mistakes or from the malice of others, it's important to understand this. Even if the initial cause seems negative, the very fact that it's been allowed into your life carries the potential for good. Imagine a loving but firm teacher who sees that you need a certain experience, a certain quality for your growth. And this teacher sends or allows a situation that, though it may bring pain and discomfort, will help you acquire that quality. If you navigate this trial with dignity and an open heart, you will undoubtedly receive the spiritual fruit for which it was all intended. There are secret, hidden laws of the universe, far beyond our limited understanding, but they are always just and always directed towards good, even if we can't see it right now. Armed with this certainty, you'll stop wasting your precious energy on fruitless arguments with reality, on thoughts and words like, "No, this can't be from God. This is unfair. This is evil. God wouldn't want evil." Many people, by saying this, try to justify their impatience, their outbursts of anger, their desire for revenge. But what do they achieve in the end? They rebel against the very lesson sent for their benefit. They try to cast off the cross, the burden that, if accepted with dignity and humility, could have led them to a great spiritual breakthrough. But they can't cast off the cross. It only becomes heavier through their resistance. They offend God or the higher law with their disbelief and complaints. They find no peace. On the contrary, they add internal discord and useless agitation to their existing sorrow, making their state utterly unbearable. Yet if they had accepted what happened with wise composure, with faith in a higher meaning, they would have preserved their inner peace, attracted divine favor, and tasted the rich spiritual fruit of the experience. So, my friend, when you encounter injustice, insults, or attacks, try to shift your focus. Don't fixate on how wrong those who hurt you are. That's a dead-end street, leading to endless resentment and a thirst for retaliation. Instead, concentrate on the thought, "The universe or God has allowed this in my life for my good. What lesson can I learn? What quality can I develop?" And don't try to dig up all the reasons and causes why this particular thing in this particular way. Do you believe that a higher power is always just and merciful? Then trust that in this specific painful situation, both its justice and its mercy are being manifested, even if you can't see or understand how right now. Remember the words that can be paraphrased as, "Blessed are those who have not seen the whole picture, yet have believed in its higher meaning." Do you believe that each of us is given our own path, our own cross to bear? If so, then accept it. Here it is, your current cross in this distressing situation, in this difficulty. And don't say, "This is too heavy for me." The universe knows the measure of your strength better than you do. It will never give you a trial you are incapable of enduring and, moreover, benefiting from. It's interesting how the difficulties sent our way vary. Some people face troubles and sorrows that seem to arise from an objective confluence of events, independent of anyone's ill will, like natural disasters, economic downturns, or random illnesses. These are generally a bit easier to bear because there's no element of personal offense. Others, however, are sent trials directly caused by people, and these are harder, especially if we can't attribute the pain inflicted to mere accident or unintentional harm. And perhaps the most challenging and painful kind of trial is when harm or trouble comes from people we once helped, people we showed kindness to, people we may have even considered friends. That cuts deep, right to the heart. And here's the paradox. If this very toughest trial is sent your way, know this. It is precisely the one you need most, the most healing, the most transformative for you at this very moment. Embrace this thought with a sense of encouragement. The universe sees enough strength in me to handle this. It believes in me and expects me to pass through this trial with dignity, with courage, without complaint or bitterness. Don't disappoint that high expectation. Don't let down your divine teacher. Why is this so? Why are difficulties stemming from the ill will of others, especially those we've benefited, considered more useful? Firstly, because our pride, that root of so many of our sufferings and delusions, is much more effectively suppressed and eradicated by such situations. It's easy to be humble when everyone is praising and loving you. Try maintaining humility when you're unjustly slandered, especially by those from whom you expected gratitude. Secondly, if surrendering to a higher will, trusting in providence, is one of the primary virtues on the spiritual path, then nowhere can we manifest it with such fullness and power as in moments of enduring these most bitter offenses. If you can not just tolerate them, but bear them with serene composure, with sincere gratitude in your heart to the higher power that sent you this lesson as a great blessing, you thereby testify to your complete devotion to that will, your fervent zeal to align yourself with its wise guidance in all things. It often happens that before sending a person a particularly strong trial, a sharp turn of fate, the universe sees in them the budding of this attitude, a readiness to accept, to trust, to learn. And desiring to strengthen this emerging quality, to elevate it to true power, it sends this cup of the strongest temptations. And if a person accepts it willingly, with inner calm, perhaps even with a quiet joy born of understanding its higher purpose, it always yields an incredibly rich spiritual fruit. Therefore, knowing this, desiring this profound growth, we must learn to accept such a cup from the hand of providence, closing the eyes of our prying curiosity and petty questions of why me and what for. Instead, with full faith, clearly seeing in this cup both the immeasurable love of the Supreme Being for us and our own certain spiritual advancement, we should drink it down with readiness and even joy. And the more bitter it tastes, the sweeter will be the fruit, the closer we are to true liberation. And now let's talk about another powerful tool that will help you use all these incidents most effectively for your growth. We've touched on how it's far more fruitful and beneficial for spiritual success to focus on practicing one particular virtue for a period, rather than trying to develop many qualities simultaneously. And herein lies an amazing secret. You can use absolutely all the incidents you encounter, no matter how diverse they may be, to train that one specific virtue you've chosen. Listen to how simply and brilliantly this can work in practice. Let's say you've decided for a certain period, a week, a month, maybe even longer, to consciously work on developing patience. And then, on the same day, or even within the same hour, several different things happen to you. For example, your boss unfairly criticizes you for something where you're completely in the right. Then, a request you made, important to you, is denied. After that, a situation arises where you're unjustly suspected of something bad. And to top it off, in the evening, you start feeling unwell, or a loved one irritates you with their behavior. On the surface, these are completely different unpleasantries, seemingly requiring different reactions. But if you remember your main goal at the moment, cultivating patience, then you can turn all these diverse events into exercises specifically for that virtue. You're criticized? Try to endure it without anger or defensiveness, maintaining inner calm. Your request is denied. Accept it patiently without complaint or discouragement. Unjustly suspected? Show patience. Don't rush into furious denials. Trust in time and truth. Your body aches. Endure with gentleness. A loved one is irritating. Practice super patience. In each of these instances, you'll be flexing the same muscle, the muscle of patience. Or, let's imagine you're currently focused on excelling in humility. Then, when faced with the same deprivedness, you'll direct your efforts towards finding an opportunity for humility in each one. Criticized? Strive to realize that perhaps you do deserve reproach for other hidden faults, or that this situation itself is a reminder of your imperfection. Request denied? Humble yourself to the fact that not all your desires must be fulfilled. Suspected? Accept it as a chance to see how attached you are to your reputation, and humbly bear this burden. In every case, you'll be looking for a chance to dismantle your pride and establish yourself in humble acceptance. If your spiritual discipline at the moment is aimed at acquiring the virtue of obedience, not necessarily formal obedience to a person, but a deep obedience to the higher will manifesting through circumstances, then in these same situations, you will compel yourself to reverently bow your neck under the sovereign hand of providence. You'll try out of a desire to please this higher source, to willingly submit to rational beings, people who criticize or deny you, to non-rational things, illness, and even to inanimate creatures, unfavorable turns of events, through which the universe brings these burdens and sorrows upon you, seeing in them not chaos but the will of the guiding hand. If you're striving for spiritual poverty, that is, non-attachment to earthly goods, comforts, and praises, then, when faced with deprivations, refusals, and injustice, you'll try to cultivate contentment with what you have, even if it's little. You'll cultivate joy and gratitude for being deprived of external comforts, because this frees your spirit to seek higher, imperishable consolations. And if you're currently working diligently to root and elevate divine love within yourself, love for God and for your neighbor, then in each of these difficult situations, you'll strive to awaken precisely these feelings of love towards your neighbor who offends you or causes trouble, as someone who, perhaps unknowingly, is currently a conduit for the good, the lesson you can derive from this incident. Try to see them not as an enemy, but as a lost soul needing compassion or an instrument in the hands of providence. And of course, towards God himself or the universe, as the primary love-filled cause of all that happens, sending or permitting these sorrows not out of cruelty, but out of immeasurable love and concern for your spiritual progress. Do you see, my friend, the incredible power and flexibility this approach offers? The very same situation can become fuel for completely different virtues, depending on what you're focused on. And this applies not only to short, fleeting annoyances, but also to those that drag on for a long time, like a chronic illness, a protracted conflict, or a period of financial hardship. If you've chosen your target virtue, you'll turn every day, every hour of that prolonged trial into a practice. So what now? How do you start applying this wisdom in your life? Without putting it off. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It will never arrive. Your moment is now. Your life is the sacred laboratory of your spirit, where you can conduct the most amazing experiments in self-transformation. Start small. Ask yourself today a few questions. What difficulty, even a minor one, are you facing right now or expecting today? Which single virtue, one quality, would you particularly like to cultivate in yourself in the near future? Now connect the two. How can you use this specific difficulty to practice that chosen virtue? Who do you want to become by going through this experience? Take one simple step. Today, right now, when you next encounter an annoyance, big or small, don't rush to react out of habit. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath in and out. And instead of an automatic reaction, anger, offense, despair, the urge to escape, ask yourself that magic question: what can this teach me? How can I use this energy, this situation for my growth, to strengthen the virtue I've chosen to develop? Remember, you are not alone on this path of transformation. Within you lies an indomitable strength, a divine spark capable of turning any darkness into light, any weakness into power. The wisdom of the universe is always ready to assist you if you open your heart and mind to it. Every step you take with awareness and the intention to grow, even the smallest, most uncertain step, is a step towards your true, radiant, limitless self. Trust this process. Open yourself to the flow of life, accepting all its gifts, even those that initially seem bitter. And you will begin to notice with amazement how your reality transforms, how fears recede, how lightness replaces heaviness, and how a deep, unshakable peace takes the place of struggle. Your path to the peaks of spirit always begins with a single, simple, yet decisive step. Take it today. You can do this. You are ready. The entire universe believes in you. Believe in yourself too.